Hi again, second grade. Here we are talking about our adaptations, our animal adaptations. Well, you might say, that's a really big word, Mrs. Venom. I don't even know what that means. Well, an adaptation is a structure or a behavior that helps an organism or plant to survive in its environment. Mrs. Bennett, that's really hard to understand too. Well, the word adapt means that we're going to adjust. Okay, so we make some behavioral adaptations. So a behavior is something we do. So this is what an animal does. So it's their behavior or their action that help it to survive. And here I have some examples of some behaviors that some animals have. Okay, so the first one is like a migration. What's migration? Well, you know from studying about butterflies last year in first grade that it's the seasonal movement of animals from one region to another. Lots of animals do a migration during the cold winter, and they move from one area to the other, and then when it warms up, they move back. Another one would be like Canadian geese. They often have a migration. They go to colder climates, and travel to warmer climates. Another behavioral adaptation would be hibernation. Now you know what hibernation means. That's when an animal might spend a period of a time, a plant or an animal actually, in the winter in a dormant, which means an inactive state. So they're sleeping. We know flowers come back in the spring, and then the winter we don't see any. Okay? And that could be plants or animals. Bears often hibernate during the winter. That means they're sleeping. They're not very active. And you'll remember Mrs. Bennett talked about her turtles who become very inactive in the pond during the winter time. I don't see them at all until the sun comes out in the spring. Animals often have a structural adaptation. So a structure is a physical feature. So what physical feature does a duck have that helps it to survive in its environment? Well, it has webbed feet. Without those webbed feet, the duck couldn't swim around in the pond. What kind of adaptation would a polar bear have in order to survive? And this is really good because this goes right into our lab that we're going to do later on polar bears. So let's think, what does a polar bear have that allows it to survive in the winter? I bet you know two things. Polar bear has special fur, right? The fur is like a coat, helps keep the warm air close to its body and helps keep it warm. But there's something else a polar bear has. Do you know what it is? It's called blubber. And a lot of whales have this too, and other animals that live in the Arctic. And if you don't know what blubber is, we're going to do a science lab experiment on that later. And we'll talk about that then. Some animals have camouflage. Now, I know all my military students know what camouflage is. This is when the animal uses, or plant uses, color or special markings to blend in with its environment. Let's play a game now, and we can talk about the different structures that animals have. I have an elephant who has a thick layer of fat under its skin called blubber. Well, it's the walrus who has a long neck to reach leaves high up into the tree. It's the giraffe who can change colors to blend to its surroundings. Well, that's called a chameleon. Who has sharp fangs that release venom? That would be this rattlesnake. Who whistles, makes sounds of echolocation under the water to communicate? Well, that would be our dolphin friend. Who has shoots out black ink to escape predators? That would be the octopus. Who has a beak that's curved and strong to crack open seeds and large nuts? That would be our parrot friend. Who has webbed feet for swimming? Well, who would that be? That would be our duck friend. The turtle has a shell for protection against predators. So who has a mane to look fierce? That would be the lion. Who has 3,000 sharp teeth to grasp its prey? And that would be a shark. I have lots of examples that if we need to talk about them, we definitely can. I want to wrap up this video talking about your behavioral adaptations. So these are the things that animals do, the behaviors that they display in order to survive. Remember the word camouflage. These are the ability of an animal to blend in, either by the way they look, the markings they have, or their color. Remember the word structural adaptation. These are the physical features that allow an animal to survive in its habitat. And some animals we've talked about migrate or hibernate. And all of these things are animal adaptations. To finish this chapter, this unit on adaptations, I want to read a quick story about how and why animals adapt. Why do animals adapt? Sometimes when there are big changes in an animal's life, the animal has to change to stay alive. Changing to suit a new habitat is called adaptation. Animals adapt to find food, survive hot or cold temperatures, and escape danger. The animals that adapt easily are the ones that have the best chance of surviving. Most penguins live in icy cold areas, but yellow-eyed penguins make their nest in forests near the ocean shores in New Zealand. They have adapted to living in a much warmer habitat. We have old and new adaptations. Many animals have happened over hundreds or millions of years. Some happen more quickly. Adaptations can happen in the body or in the way an animal behaves. So this Arctic fox lives in a very cold part of the earth, and it's covered with ice and snow. It has thick white fur and tiny ears. Small ears keep heat inside the body of the fox. This coy wolf pup lives in a city park. Coy wolves are part of coyote and part wolf. Their bodies and ways of life have changed to survive. How are the ears of the Arctic fox different from the ears of the fennec fox on page 8? And why do you think the Arctic fox is white? Ooh, I know my second grade knows that answer. It blends in with the environment. Changing how they move. Changing the ways they move has helped some animals get from one place faster. Birds and bats made one of the biggest adaptations when their bodies changed so they could fly. Other animals have also adapted their ways of moving to suit new habitats to keep themselves safe. So the dolphin is a mammal. Its flippers are made up of fingers under its skin. It uses these flippers to swim. Bats are the only mammals that fly. Many years ago, they were small animals that lived in trees. Their bodies changed so they could find more food. Their long fingers now support their wings. Climbing trees. Most kangaroos hop on the ground, but one kind climbs trees and lives in the branches. Tree kangaroos have adapted to living in trees because the forest grew in their habitats, and they could find more food up in the trees. Adapting to the desert. Deserts are dry places with very little rain. Few plants grow in deserts because they are so dry. So animals that live there must adapt in order to find enough food and water to stay alive. Camels, for example, store fat in their humps on their backs. The fat provides them with energy when they cannot find food or water. Some animals live in burrows or holes to stay out of the sun. Winter adaptations. Some animals live in cold places for all or part of the year. Body adaptations and changes in behavior keep them warm in freezing cold temperatures. A bear, though, sleeps during much of the winter and wakes up on warm days to stretch or snack on stored food. Leaving their habitats. Many animals migrate or move to other habitats to escape cold weather, find food and water, or have their babies. Many kinds of birds, such as Canadian geese and the Arctic terns, migrate to warmer places for the winter. The humpback whale migrate from cold oceans to warm oceans to give birth to their babies. Some animals lose their homes because people cut down the forests. This baby elephant has gone under an electric fence built by a farmer, but its mother is not able to fit under it. Living in groups. One of the most important adaptations animals have made is living in groups. Animals that belong to families or communities can help each other find food and keep safe. Examples of animals are monkeys, troops, lion prides, dolphin pods, and meerkat mobs. And these are meerkats. Here are some monkeys that live in a group. The great pretenders. The pretenders. Some animals have developed coloring or patterns. We talked about camouflage. This camouflage helps hide them from predators or prey. Many animals are also using mimicry. Mimicry makes animals look like other plants or animals, and it makes it hard to tell what they were or they are. So here, this is did you guess that this is a scary looking animal? It's called an insect. It's called a praying mantis. This is an insect. It looks like a leaf. Praying mantises often mimic flowers and leaves. New kinds of animals. The bodies of some animals have changed so much that it's hard to believe they were part of an animal group to which they belong. Mud skippers, tree shrews, and eyes are just a few examples. Mud skippers are fish that can live on land and water. They can walk, skip, leap, dig, and swim. They're even able to climb trees. Unlike lemurs, eyes have developed teeth like rodents for chewing and long middle fingers for pulling bugs out of trees. They have a long toe that helps them hang on to branches. And tree shrews look like squirrels but have bigger brains. And they're more like primates, like monkeys. Adapting to city life. Many animals must live in cities when cities take up the land that was once their habitats. Some animals can adapt. City animals include squirrels, foxes, coyotes, the coy wolf, the raccoon, opossums, and skunks. So we all know that we've seen these animals around our cities, and they have to adapt to live in that environment. How do you adapt? Compare and contrast your adaptations to those of the animals in this book. You can write a story about how you would adapt to changes in your life. And here are some suggestions, and many of us have done this. When we move into a new home, when summer and winter change, when you learn how to swim or maybe ski or snowboard, being a part of a different group, finding a new friend, speaking a new language, learning new skills, or changing your thinking. So we've been talking about how and why animals adapt. And remember, adaptations can be structural or they can be behavioral. You're going to need this information when you complete your animal habitat project. I'm going to be giving you an animal and you're going to do the research and present your project in a very creative way on Zoom Classroom soon. So I'll be giving you more instructions on that in your packet. All right, second grade, I hope you like learning about animal adaptations. That's all for now.